In from the round tables. I hope nobody's gone to lunch. Nothing is available now. But we're going to be starting the next session, and this is the second of the plenaries for today. And the session is going to be facilitated by Professor Herbert Moyo, who's from the College of Humanities, UKZN. I've just been schooled in the way the schools and operates in the university. Last night I said from the School of Humanities, and he corrected me and he's saying the college has schools, so please be specific about it. So it's my pleasure now to call him forward to introduce our next speaker. We are so pleased to have Dr. Elizabeth Williams from the University of Edinburgh, who's going to be our next plenary speaker. So let me hand you over to Professor Moyo.
She's got a PowerPoint.
People still come. Oh, yeah. Okay, organize that. It's fine.
I'll leave it on the back now.
Yeah, we can even wait a bit. People are still streaming, so you can do it. No.
Where is it? PowerPoint, is it here? Mexican?
There I am, the third one down, there's the filling.
Okay, cool. Repair. Cool. I mustn't show it. Oh.
I have to introduce her first.
Yeah.
Esteemed colleagues, good afternoon. I have the pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Elizabeth Williams from the University of Edinburgh, presenting to us a topic, Gandhi, King, Mandela, Legacies and African Women of the 21st Century. And who is Dr. Elizabeth Williams? The biography is long. I've just summarized it to about 20 minutes. She was born and brought up in the UK. Her parents are part of the colonial generation. They went to the UK to study various branches of medicine. And Elizabeth has studied at University of Leicester, the School of Oriental and African Studies, the London School of Economics and Political Science, back is University of London. Elizabeth taught history. She has also done he has been to the School of Literal Institute in London. And she has also taught in that school. She currently leads a team of academic support librarians at Edinburgh. I will just whisper to you that she told me about the number of blacks and Africans in that team. I won't say the number. She said, I should not tell you, in that university. They are supporting 3 colleges, the School of Medicine and Veterinary Science, School of Arts and Humanities and Social Sciences. And Elizabeth is a noted public speaker in the UK and international. She has spoken in Poland, in Israel, in America, etc. And what is interesting is that she has authored a number of books. I want to mention a few. So, one, the politics of race in Britain and South Africa, interesting title, Black British Solidarity and the Anti-Apartheid Struggle in 2017, published by Bloomsbury. She is an editor of a forthcoming journal, peer-reviewed, and this one has got people from different countries that have actually contributed: Japan, China, USA, the Middle East, the West Indies, and it will be published through Taylor and Francis. And the title is Black History Dialogues. The second book is coming at the end of the year, Black Britain and Nelson Mandela, Pulling the Branch of a Tree. And this has got a group of Black, British, and South African intellectuals that are examining Madiba's legacy and its impact on Black intellectual thought on race and social justice in Britain. Thus, our speaker, Doc, you can come forward.
I want to thank you very much, Professor, for that very warm welcome. And I want to thank you all for being here and giving me this opportunity. I stand here as a descendant of many generations who would have loved to have been here with you, from the West Indies in particular. I'm also very honoured to have two of the authors in the forthcoming book here in the audience. So if you'd like to stand up and take your bows, very happy to have you here, Professor Henry and Dr. Talela in the yellow. Thank you. Right, as I go through a few reflections that I have for you, I've just put together a PowerPoint. It's a bit shocking because it's a slightly different colour from what I remembered. So I hope it's not too jarring on the eyes for you. So let's see if we can get that moving. Yes, it seems to be totally different. The slideshow. I think it's probably the format that it's in, isn't it? I'm sorry, that's not my forte. Yes. So the slides, I don't know what that is there.
This one? Can you remove
Yeah,
it?
what's that green?
No, this.
I think we might have to.
Oh, everything is
Could
like
you,
that.
that slide? Yeah. It looks as if it's been corrupted,
Corrupted, yeah.
I'm afraid. So that's. Okay.
Let's do this again. Sorry about that.
Sent it beforehand.
No, it's corrupted.
Okay,
I'll work
no
on it
worries,
quickly.
no worries.
I'll work on it.
Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, the three giants spanning the 19th into the 20th century. The testament of their call for racial and social justice, their beliefs and actions have proved inspiring for those fighting the stubbornly persistent injustices of the age. The drive for peace and social justice for all remains as potent in 2023 as it did during their lifespan. Despite the birth of the hard-fought independence of India, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the removal of apartheid, with the achievement of arguably the most progressive democratic constitution in the world, many battles remain for population groups on the whole and particular sections of society within those groups. There are many issues of regional, national, global ramification which impact people groups and which the trio, in their own unique manner, would have challenged and advocated for. Speaking truth to power. The contemporary demand for human and animal rights, environmental guardianship, and sustainability would not have been alien to these men. The irony is that so much has changed, and yet so much has not. The Hebrew Scriptures pinpoints humanity's pathology to the fact that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? As I get older, I realize so much of who we are as humans, what we exhibit, our actions, be they good or bad, is down to what is going on internally. Not only how we view ourselves, but crucially, how we view and treat others. There is a symbiotic connectivity there. It is fair to say that the African woman has held a rather ambiguous position in the societies of the North, and probably in the East too. Her positioning in popular culture has been a complex one. Moreover, even in the era of the Me Too movement, which was, of course, as we know, originated by a black woman, one still feels that the black female voice is devalued in too many sectors of our society. Moreover, the travesty of chattel slavery, what it did to her body, mind, and spirit, with health reverberation down through the generation, still has not been fully told, although sociologists and historians have begun the job. Most recently, see Stella Dadsey, A Kick in the Belly. Little is said, though, about how her personhood, the African woman's personhood, has been plagiarized. The physical alterations that clearly seek to recreate the African woman's bodily shape or curves, the appropriation of the styling of her hair, clothes, even how she walks in some cases, the copying of her artistic expressions, to the strange phenomenon of individuals choosing to pass as black women, going undetected and under the radar until one slip that gives them away. Netflix and other globalized streaming platforms may have dramas with strong, or at least foregrounded black female leads. Even the current, though criticized, trend of resurrecting African queens in dramas, but the stats on the ground across the board still do not look good, and black women feel still the microaggressions in all too many spaces as they navigate life. How we view women depends, I guess, on the position of one's own personhood, race, sexuality, gender, the characteristics of what makes us the unique humans we are, and our lived experience, our socialization to the relationship around us. Now, I'm not going to interrogate the relationships between GMK and the women in their lives, at least not directly. However, it is illuminating to explore how Kasturba, Coretta, Evelyn, Winnie, and Grasser embraced their own fights, which arguably mirrored and sustained that of the towering figures in their lives. However long or short the personal relationship lasted. In simple vernacular, these women were not pushovers, and I think we can all agree in one way or another that they paid a heavy price for their unique association with each man. For African women, so much has changed, and yet so much has not. I know that my great-great-grandmother Elizabeth, great-grandmother Josephine, grandmother Clarice, even Mother Arteline would be amazed at the opportunities there are now for their descendants in comparison to when they were girls, young women and mothers. We have come a long way. However, tropes and stereotypes persist. Furthermore, racism and misogynist treatment remain an ugly mix, especially in the press. Ask Michelle Obama, Serena Williams, or Meghan Mountbatten Windsor. In everyday working life, too many anecdotes reminds one of our comparatively lower value in relation to our white peers. Yet it is contradictory, and there are standout moments of high visibility that encourage reflection. So, for instance, King Charles III of the UK and named territories was crowned alongside his consort, Queen Camilla, on the 6th of May this year. In terms of the coronation ceremony, there were notable departures from that of his predecessors. Prior to the occasion, the PR machinery was on full blast. The chattering classes bent over backwards to drive home the message of the introduction of elements of inclusivity and diversity. That's the current buzz terms in the UK since the Black Lives Matter. This was going to be interjected into an age-old, predominantly white European ceremony that by its very nature is exclusionary and elite. Now the 21st century audience was being invited to see themselves represented in all the colours, including the congregants invited that had no place in prior ceremonies. So, in translation, there would be more black and brown peoples and faith groups and foreign rulers given visibility during the proceedings. One wondered if the king of the Ashantis, Osei Tutu II, would turn up in his full regalia, as he had done for a reception with Charles a few days later. Surely the aesthetic feast for the eyes and the majestic symbolism of his thick gold bangles and rings on the limbs of its authentically traditional owner would throw all of the looted British crown jewels into the shade. But sadly, I didn't see his gold or kente robes during the ceremony. However, you had to hand it to the organizers. It was indeed striking to see the number of black women taking such a prominent role in the pomp and ceremony. The four that were part of the ceremony, and later Baroness Scotland, who's the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, who was seen boogieing away with Charles at the coronation concert, seemed to signal a dramatic departure. There was Baroness Fluella Benjamin, her head held high, carrying the royal scepter, stepping forward with Dame Professor Elizabeth Annie Onwu carrying the bejeweled royal orb. There was Baroness Amos, Lady of the Garter, who announced the king to the congregants. And later, there was Right Reverend Rose Bishop Hudson Wilkin, who is Bishop of Dover and Bishop of Canterbury. She also had a speaking part. Of course, prior to this show and tell was your own soprano, surely soon to be dame in the vein of Dame Kerry Takanawa before her. Pretty Yandi was a vision in Canary Yellow, who sang Sacred Fire. She was, in fact, the first black woman to sing solo at the coronation of a British monarch, and there's been 62 of them. What was one to make of this elevated visibility, one of whom happens to be a member of my own family? There was, of course, the obligatory gospel choir. They managed a dignified sway. So much colour was injected into the abbey. However, lest we should get carried away, there was later a discordant slip. As the royals gathered on the balcony, one of the black female commentators revealed her authentic self and expressed her thoughts to the viewers. Her popular Netflix series was no protection. The actress, Adjoa Ando, had the audacity in the view of some of the commentators, and anyone with 20/20 vision could see that, to quote her, the balcony was terribly white. There were no brown faces on the Buckingham Palace balcony. Translation, some things appear to change, yet by alchemy, some things stay the same. And when all the drama dissipated, the family had, you see, no visible evidence of diversity or inclusion among their own clique. And this observation threw the media into its usual vitriolic diatribe of criticism at Ando's tasteless comments. They brandished stats of the apparent high number of complaints to the network. They, of course, were all too aware that the one person who could have injected a little coloration into that balcony image and later portraiture had roundly been ostracized and pilloried out of the country back home in sunny California, which would be, of course, anyone's choice, I would have thought. So, what are we to make of this spectacle of the black female presence so visible on the national stage when the eyes of the world turn temporarily to view the Brits at their pageantry, which of course is rehashed in different forms throughout the social calendar of the elites, and where black women are beginning to pop up, even if it has taken them nearly 900 years to do so, for instance, during the Garter ceremony. This, of course, is just a century-old tradition. Did this spectacle signal that our battles as African women in Britain are over, now that there seems to be endorsement of our competencies from the figurehead at the very apex of British hierarchy? Or is it, as many would argue, performative, virtue signaling in front of an estimated viewing audience at that time of 18 to 20 million? The saying goes that you can tell a lot about a society by how they treat their children. Similarly, I believe you can gauge a lot about society by how they treat their women in matters of health and crime and employment, childcare, political rights, education, treatment in the criminal justice system, and their social economic outcomes in general. How are we faring as black women in the North and in the South? Are we where we should be? Is it good and safe to be a woman in the societies in which we live? What would Gandhi think about the life and chances and the treatment of women in India right now? Similarly, what would Martin Luther King think about black women in America, or even Madiba in this country with reputedly the most progressive constitution? Are women here survivors or thrivers? It is a complex picture. For black women in Britain, though visible, yet they remain invisible in areas where a critical mass of protest and support would be useful to push and advocate for accessibility to the opportunities and the privileges to be the decision makers, the mentors, and the sponsors of the next generation in key industries, to be the innovators and creators of self-sustaining generative wealth. We have the outstanding individuals that I have mentioned, and you would have seen on the slide, and the list is growing. I cannot do justice to, thankfully, that increasing number. The increasing multi-generational black firsts and outstanding list of writers and journalists, business people, scientists, academic, and policymakers, one could go on. And of course, I haven't touched on other regions of the world, so many in the USA, including recent standout figures like the pandemic-fighting Kezimeka Shanta Corbett or the AI genius Joy Bulawini. And what of the picture in Latin America, the Caribbean, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and Middle East? Do we have a discernible voice in these under-examined areas where there is a black presence? Of course, in our mother continent of Africa, the picture for inferential visibility is very encouraging. If one wants to lay store on listings such as the top 100 most influential women produced by Business Insider Africa. It is good to counter the Western tropes of the benighted African woman struggling to feed her myriads of children. But a note of caution, irrespective of whether you are a celebrated First Lady, for instance, or a graduate of arguably the best Ivy League schools in the country, the critics and racists will still disrespect you. Of course, Michelle Obama is a case in point. It makes no difference how rich you are, and criticism will be unrelenting, as Oprah would tell you. And you do continue to be vulnerable to medical malpractice and misdiagnosis, even at your most vulnerable state in life, as Beyoncé or Serena would tell you when they had their own children. Too many people want you to stay in your lane and not slay in it. And it is a battle to retain, quite literally, one's sanity in the hostile spaces one has to inhabit and navigate. What would GMK do but fight on? And we can gather inspiration from what they did. Alice Walker's famous lines in the mouth of Oprah Winfrey in the celebrated book The Color Purple still stands. The quote, "All my life I've had to fight. I've had to fight my daddy. I've had to fight my brothers. I've had to fight my cousins and my uncles. A girl child isn't safe in a family of men. But I never thought I would have to fight in my own house." Sobering, as I've said, but still true for too many women of color. Whether literal, metaphorical, the struggle and the fight remains all too real. The fight, for instance, in the UK Academy to make a dent in that stubborn landscape. Black women are underrepresented at professorial and leadership levels in the UK university system. According to recent figures published by the Higher Education Statistics Agency, just 160 out of over 22,000 professors in 2020-2021 were black, defined as Black, African, Caribbean, or Black British, with the numbers further reducing for those identified as Black female professors. Actually, 41 are Black women, and out of that, we only have one Black tenured professor in history. In America, research has emerged indicating that Black women are the most educated group in the US, with a growing number of Black women pursuing higher degrees. It is even more imperative for Black faculty to be represented. However, many are questioning whether institutions actually want Black faculty or whether they're simply looking for diversity brownie points. It does seem that within the American context, corporate America isn't designed to champion Black female advancement. A recent report found that Black women leaders are the most ambitious than other women at their level. 59% of Black women leaders want to be top executives, compared to 49% of women leaders overall. But they are also more likely than other women leaders of their races and ethnicities to receive signals that it would be harder for them to advance. Compared to other women at their level, Black women leaders are more likely to have colleagues question their competence and to be subjected to demeaning behavior. And 1 in 3 Black women leaders say that they've been denied or passed over for opportunities because of personal characteristics, including their race and gender. 20% of Black women leaders experience having someone say or imply that they are not qualified, compared to 12% of all women and 6% of all men. 38% of Black women leaders experience being mistaken for someone at a lower level. 55% of Black women leaders experience having your judgment constantly questioned. So the writer, Dana Brownlee, highlights the toxic conundrum that so many Black women leaders face, frustrated by disparate challenges and barriers, but not feeling safe enough to voice concerns. Indeed, one of the most dehumanizing yet durable racist tropes stifling many black women leaders is that of the angry black woman. And as a result, many black women leaders find themselves caught in a dysfunctional, non-reciprocal relationship in the workplace, continuing to contribute to and support organizations that clearly don't nurture them. In the workplace experiences and professional success in many ways remain fixed to the determining factors of gender and race, which often leaves darker-skinned women relegated to the bottom rung of the corporate ladder. There is the double whammy of color and gender. And they have never proved to be markers of systemic advantage in the corporate world. Disparities and inequities abound. Again, GMK would encourage that the high ground be taken alongside persistent, skillful, and strategic subversion. The workplace is increasingly driven by knowledge creators and innovators, skillful navigators between systems and processes and concepts applied to the problem-solving needs of the roles that one cannot always pinpoint. Being valued for one's unique or ubiquitous knowledge base is what counts. There is a recognition that the more cosmopolitan and diverse experience and views brought to the table, the better. This creates opportunity. If any group knows how to pivot and be creative and flexible and adapt, it has to be the black and brown woman. Of course, the question is how to build the mental toughness, safeguard and build resilience while empowering black women to attain the tools they need to attain and then sustain themselves in the ever-changing work environment. The academic, Nicola Rollock, ventures to share her coping mechanism in her recent book, The Racial Code, Tales of Resistance and Survival. But her book follows hard on the heels of work by writers such as Shirley Rose Tate or Heidi Mercer, Deborah Gabrielle, Diane Rehay, and others. There is still issues for which the African woman must fight to be heard, to sustain visibility, and to have a seat at whichever table of their choice. When will a black woman be numbered among the G7 leaders? I would argue that having a strong geopolitical black female presence is vital given the way the major challenges of the age affects our mother continent, Africa. The impact, for instance, of climate change on our youth and their environment, health issues, specific conditions that seem to disproportionately affect black women. The World Health Organization needs to be funneling more money into investigation into the conditions and pathologies that blight the lives of women of color, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, or life inhibitors such as fibroids or kidney disease. Whenever medical stats are wheeled out, your heart sinks when the breakdown stats start to map the outcomes for black women. Medical racism, or at the very least unconscious bias, still blights the care of black women. Social advocacy requires a consistent and persistence to disrupt the harmful narratives coming out of the mouths of health professionals who should know better. In Britain today, women of African descent are 5 times more likely to die in childbirth during the postpartum period than their white counterparts. Research conducted by the Women and Equalities Committee found that even though MPs agree that the current government and NHS measures to address this disparity in maternal deaths are necessary, they still remain insufficient. So black British women still die at alarming rates compared to their white counterparts. And the biggest reason now being touted is that it's because we come to motherhood with far too many pre-existing health conditions. However, considering the fact that black women are the least likely to believe when it comes to pain or symptoms, this, of course, is reflected in the data that shows that we're also the last to be diagnosed with certain diseases. What about in new tech? It's been reported that over 20,000 black women are missing from the IT profession in the UK. According to a new report from leading industry groups, black women remain underrepresented in the information technology sector and face barriers to progression, those that are in the sector already, such as a lack of flexible working, career development support, and a strong tech bro culture in the organizations. The research by the Chartered Institute for IT and Coding Black Females found that whilst black women make up 1.8% of the workforce in the UK, they only make up 0.7% of its IT professionals. That means for black women to be truly represented in IT, there would need to be 20,000 more within the sector. 67% of the Coding Black Females network, who are all tech professionals at a different range of levels, felt that they face more barriers to entry into the industry than women from other ethnicities. Nearly a quarter believe that current diversity and inclusion policies, in fact, are having a negative effect. There is still work to be done. Black women transform the societies in which they live. In the UK, one of the increasing growing crises in the society is the crumbling of the National Health Service, a free health service for all, unprecedented at its time of introduction in 1948. But in all of the analyses, it is interested in terms of looking at how it's falling apart. It is interesting that few give credit to its longevity from 1948 to now, due to, in no small part, to the thousands of black and brown women and some men that kept it going. They inhabited the lower and middle levels across the medical field, with smaller numbers who broke through to senior managerial hierarchies. A factor in its slow-seeming, painful demise is arguably the fact that there has been natural wastage to thousands of nurses retiring and female health professionals who have left because of whatever reason they have left the service. And there has been a struggle to recruit staff ever since, although it has to be said that they've started to recruit quite heavily from South Africa. Assessment of the so-called Windrush generation of Afro-Caribbean workers have prompted, therefore, increasing histories of re-examining the transformational impact of black nurses and other workers across public life. But it shouldn't surprise you that the ugly tales of racism live on, though it may look, sound, and be felt rather differently than when my mother, for instance, commenced her training until she retired in the early 20th century. Activism is being led by women targeting the criminal justice system and the racist actions of its officers, the incarceration, the disproportionate deaths in custody of black people, fatal injury and deaths. All these are red flags signaling where the struggle continues, and where they live in, Gandhi, Mandela and King would recognize and champion the fight. In fact, long after his release, Mandela paid more than one visit to various black communities identifying with their struggles. For instance, the racist murder of Stephen Lawrence being one of the many high-profile cases that he chose to publicly identify with. In the UK, we do have a problem with violence against women. High-profile cases, one after the other. Recently, a disturbing turn has been that those who have been tasked with upholding the law have now become the murderous perpetrators. So, a twist was when 2 black sisters were murdered in a park in 2021, had pictures of their bodies distributed amongst a social network of a police WhatsApp channel. So we certainly have a struggle on our hands, trying to keep not only our house and our householders safe, but also trying to keep mental health and sanity intact. How do we respond when we hear of crimes against the bodies of our children? There was a case, and not the only one, of a school child who was strip searched at school by only a white teacher and a policeman present. The publicity of this incident revealed the violence against black female bodies, which has unfolded under the radar. The nature of the outrage, with the attached shame and violation, and the youth of the victims undoubtedly kept the growing practice under wraps. The road to freedom is long. Not only in the UK, but around the globe, we have seen flashes of black and brown women being attacked in different ways. India, America, the Middle East, Iran, you can go on. However, we do find inspiration from GMK. We stand on their shoulders, but also on the shoulders of their wives and women of that generation and further back. Irrespective of the complicated relations they may have had in the private sphere with their wives, it is noticeable that when one studies the women, they were more than a match for the men in their determination to call for social change and justice. Now more women are entering and sustaining themselves in all areas of public life, and African women are right there, no matter the racism, the unconscious bias, and pathologies of the societies and the systems that 9 times out of 10 were not created with them in mind, to be part of or to lead. Nevertheless, you can't keep a woman down. In the celebrated words of Dr. Maya Angelou, phenomenal women, we salute you, both past and present, and still we will continue to rise. I think at that point we can play Dr. Maya Angelou's "And Still I Rise" to drive home that message. Thank you. Right, the volume, just need to raise the volume. Volume, please.
Oh, there's something to listen to.
Where's the tech? Gentleman has gone.
The technician is gone.
No problem. I'm just looking for the volume here. It looks different actually here. There should be an arrow.
What kind of a... Oh.
And then I'll go back to the beginning.
Yeah. How long is it?
2 minutes.
Okay, fine.
With your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high. Still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance? As if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Can we actually give a good round of applause? Excellent. Actually, Elizabeth is around. She will be mingling with us throughout the conference. So if we have got questions and comments, can we interact with her directly? Time is not allowing us to really engage what she has given to us. Sorry about that. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. I think that was a wonderful presentation. I want to just tell you that in South Africa, the African National Congress's Women's League have got a slogan, and it says, "Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Bogodo." If you strike a woman, you strike a rock. Yes, thank you very much. Okay. All right, so we are actually 20 minutes into lunch. So before you disperse, I just want to run through the program for the afternoon so that everybody is in the clear as to what we're going to be doing. So I'm just checking the time now. I'm going to take 2 minutes to run through this thing, and so we've got like 38 minutes to lunch. Can I ask everybody to perhaps be back at 2 o'clock, 10 past 2 at the latest, but 2 o'clock, so that the chairpersons can then facilitate the next round of roundtables. Okay, so we're going to have the same 6 topics in the roundtables as you see in your program, and you then will then choose which one you will go to, and please do that over lunch, and then we'll be able to spread ourselves through the through the conference. At the end of the roundtables, we will get back here after tea at 15:30. We'll get back here at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And there'll be the final roundtable for the day, at least plenary for the day, plenary 3. And we're going to have Dr. Johnny Mack from Stanford University. Now, immediately after that session, that'll be the close of the formal session for the day. If you look at your program, there's an evening program that is like an hour after that. And I think we're going to be a little half an hour after the formal session because of the way time is going. But it's a very interesting evening. It's going to be directed by Mr. Yunus Karim, who was a former lecturer at this university and is now a politician representing the ANC in the parliament in Cape Town. And he's going to be engaging with not just representatives of the families, the Gandhi, Mandela, King families, but also engaging with representatives who've had a relationship with the families over the years. It's going to be a very interesting discussion. We're going to have them on the stage here, and he'll be engaging, and you'll have an opportunity also to give a reflection or to ask a question. And immediately following that, we've got 2 wonderful productions. The university's School of Arts is giving us a drama presentation on Gandhi, Mandela, and King. I've seen a snippet of it. You are in for a treat. And also thereafter, we're going to have a dance production also on Gandhi, Mandela, King, and that will follow thereafter. So please don't go away. There is supper that's going to be served after the final session today. I know it's a long day, but I think you'll be in for a treat before we leave. So can we say lunch, Karen, from now till 10 past? Okay, colleagues? Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you back after the roundtables.